Storytime about how I kissed every teacher I ever had a crush on and never got caught. Disclaimers is not my story time, was sending me on Instagram. Growing up, I was a spoiled brat. My parents gave me literally everything I ever wanted. For my 15th birthday, I told my dad that if he didn't get me a BMW, I would run away. So on my 15th birthday, I got the BMW. My parents never said no to anything. One time I told my parents I wanted to have a party at my house and they said no. I threw a tantrum and started to cry. My dad pulled out his credit card and told me to stop crying and I could go buy whatever I wanted. And I pretty much maxed out his card. He did punish me for a month, but all he really took away was the TV. As you can see, I was completely entitled. And yes, looking back, I would love to punch myself. I was a complete brat. When I got into high school, I went boy crazy. Parents told me they did not want me having boyfriends, but of course, I put up a fight. They had no choice but to let me have boyfriends. I would bring them over to my house all the time, and I would always take them up to my room and lock our door. My dad told me one time to open the door, and I wouldn't, so he just left me. Eventually, I got bored with all my boyfriends, so I would just break up with them. But one day, this new high school teacher comes in. We made eye contact for about 5 seconds. I was obsessed. Follow for part 2. Storytime about how I kissed every high school teacher I had a crush on and never got caught. Disclaimer, is not my storytime, it's on Instagram. After we locked eyes for about 5 seconds, he looked away. But I was totally obsessed. He was like the most perfect guy I'd ever seen. And the first thing I did was go to his classroom. I knocked on the door and as soon as he saw me, he smiled and said, "Come in." We talked for about 2 minutes and he told me that he was only substituting. So I knew I needed to make my move really quick. Fortunately, I was not taking the classes that he was substituting, but I had to find a way to get close to him. So I started watching everything that he did. My school had a big outdoors area and there were lots of tables around. And I noticed that he would go behind the library to eat his lunch. So I started going behind the library to eat my lunch. I decided to get there before he did so that it would be a coincidence. As soon as he saw me, he waved, but he sat at another table. So I grabbed my food and went over to sit with him. That's when I started asking him if he had a girlfriend. He got super red. This guy was blushing. And I knew right away that he probably had a crush on me. He basically didn't give me a yes or no about the girlfriend, but I didn't care. But I didn't want to make my move right away. He said for the next 3 days I sat with him at lunch. Finally, he asked me, "Don't you have friends?" And I said yes, but they're all annoying. That's when I leaned in for the kiss. And no, he did not pull away. The kiss lasted for about 10 seconds. As soon as we pull away, he starts looking around to see if anybody saw. And he told me that I need to find someone my own age. By the way, he was 24, I was 17. Next day at lunch, I asked him if he wanted to go to my car. And we ended up kissing 3 more times that day. That's when he asked me for my phone number. Follow for part 3. Storytime about how I kissed every teacher I had a crush on and never got caught. Disclaimer, this is not my storytime, it's on Instagram. As we were sitting in my car kissing, he asked me for my number. Gave him my number and that's when he said that because he's only a substitute teacher, we could still hang out outside of school. And I said, of course. The following week, he was gone because the teacher he was substituting for was back. No, he never called me. A few months later, we had another substitute teacher. And this guy was also really good looking. He wasn't as good looking as the first one, but good enough to distract me. This time I got lucky. He was substituting for drama. And I took drama twice a week. So I knew that I was going to be seeing him often. First thing I needed to do was get him to notice me. But this took a lot longer than the other guy. For the first week, I would just try to talk to him, but he was not having it. He would literally tell me to just go sit down. But I couldn't give up. One day after class, I decided to stay late. I knew that he would be staying late as well, so I knew that was my in. I went up to him and asked him if I could help him out. He said yes, and he basically told me to put away some of the costuming. As we were doing that, I just started talking to him. And I swear to God, for a minute, this guy forgot that I was a student. We started talking about everything. By the end of the conversation, he told me that I was really mature and that I made him laugh. So the next day, I stayed after school with him again. This time we were backstage organizing props, and we were completely isolated. That's when I told him that I thought he was really cute and that he was probably a good kisser. Then he walks up to me and kisses me. Oh my God, the butterflies in my stomach. When he stopped kissing me, I pulled him in and kissed him again. That's when he came to his senses and told me that I needed to go home. So I did, and the following week, he was not there. Apparently he had a family emergency, but we know it's a lie. Looking back on my behavior, I'm totally horrified. Where did I get the courage to do all the things I did? I never spoke to any of them again, but I did see one of them on Instagram. I did not follow him. He's now got a big beer belly. Ew. Definitely don't do what I did. If I could go back, I would not have done it. Bye.
Am I the asshole for hiding the soda? I feel ridiculous for even posting this, but I need objective eyes on this. Background: 1 husband, 2 stepkids, 15 male, 17 male. Married 5 years. We keep separate financial accounts if that makes a difference, and we alternate who buys groceries week to week. Anyways, here's the deal. I don't drink coffee. I drink Mountain Dew or the occasional energy drink for my morning caffeine kick. My husband and the oldest stepson are both coffee drinkers. With increasing frequency, I'll go to grab a drink out of the fridge and all of the soda and energy drinks are gone. The kids have taken to coming home and grabbing 2 to 3 or more sodas. And before they left for their mom's house last week, the 15-year-old was actually packing a 6-pack into his backpack to go. The obvious solution, I thought, was to buy more soda. Yes, I know it's awful for the kids, but if their dad isn't stopping them from sucking down junk food, it's not my deal to intervene. Good point for you. Yes, you are correct. Nope, still gone to where I look for the fridge for one single much-needed energy boost and nada. So I started asking my husband to pick up soda or a few energy drinks on his grocery shopping week to supplement. His response was that he's not wasting money on garbage like that and to complain about how expensive things like Mountain Dew are these days. Then tell your kids to stop drinking hers. Simple. Like, okay, you don't buy it, fine, don't buy it, but tell your kids not to take your wife's shit. Next tactic was to ask that if the kids drink the soda that they please leave a few behind if it's obvious we're almost out, so I have at least 1 or 2 when I go to grab one. This is where things took a turn for the worse. My husband got irritated and said that I was policing the food and that no one who lives here should have to ask permission to eat or drink. Really, dude? You gonna pull that shit? Ugh. Fine. I figured if I wanted to have a Mountain Dew or energy drink for myself, I would just put a little mini fridge in my office and stash a few in there. I got a tiny fridge that holds a 6-pack and pops a few in there. I put the cases I buy in my office and put a week's worth in the main fridge at a time so they last until I shop again. Okay, so you're putting some, like 6 in your own little fridge and you're still putting a pack in the big fridge. Yesterday, the 15-year-old complained that there hadn't been Mountain Dew in the fridge for a few days, and my husband grumpily said, "Go get them from your stepmom's office. She's hiding food and snacks from you guys in there." What a piece of shit. At this point, I put my foot down and said I'm hanging on to some of the drinks that I like every week because otherwise I don't get any. And if everyone else drank what I put in the fridge for them before I shopped again and my husband didn't want to buy any himself, that's just too bad. My husband still refuses to buy the soda himself, but is convinced I'm being a complete and total jerk because I'm hiding what I purchased. Am I being completely oblivious to my own asshole behavior here, or is this as lopsided as I think it is? Nah, your husband's psycho. What the heck? He's not wasting money on garbage, but he's perfectly happy for you to spend your money and not even drink your own soda. So, nah, get out of here.
My boyfriend is moving in with his girl best friend and I don't trust her one bit. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's send me on Instagram. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost a year. When I met him, he already had a very big group of best friends. One of them was this girl. There's actually another girl in the group, but my boyfriend and this particular girl, let's call her Lacey. Lacey is completely obsessed with my boyfriend. I tell him all the time, but he doesn't want to listen to me. She goes out of her way to spend time with him, and she'll do girlfriend things for him. Sometimes she'll call him and say, "I cooked us dinner, come over to my apartment." She even goes to his apartment and helps him do laundry. Let me go back though. When we started dating, he asked me not to be uncomfortable and that him and her were only good friends. But as soon as I saw them with each other, it was visible that she was in love with him. When he first brought me around to meet his friends, she was super territorial. She would sit next to him and even sat on his lap in front of me. And this made my boyfriend uncomfortable. He asked her to sit on a chair instead of his lap. After that, I asked him if he had feelings for her and he said no. He said he's only ever seen her as a sister, that the thought of hooking up with her makes him want to vomit. Lacey reached out to me and asked me to have lunch with her. Throughout the whole lunch, all she talked about was my boyfriend, and how amazing he is, and how only a good girl deserves him. Part 2 is up. My boyfriend is moving in with his girl best friend and I don't trust her. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I was sending me on Instagram. When her and I went to lunch, all she talked about was my boyfriend. That's when she started saying things like, "He only deserves a really good girl." That's when I was straight up with her. I told her that he had already chosen me because he loved me and that I didn't need her to tell me what my boyfriend needed. You guys should have seen the look on this girl's face. She was shocked that I would defend myself and even talk back to her. Then she said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel bad." I told her that I didn't feel bad and that I knew what she was doing. She was basically trying to intimidate me and make me feel that I wasn't good enough for my boyfriend. She denied it and started apologizing, but at least I made it clear to her that I was not stupid and that she was not going to walk all over me like she probably did with all of his exes. By the way, one of his past girlfriends actually broke up with her because of this girl. I mean, Lacey. Found this out through one of the other friends. They told me that I needed to be careful with her. That's why I was prepared to go to lunch with her. Guess what happened though? I called my boyfriend to say hi to him and that's when he starts yelling at me. He said Lacey called him to tell him that I had attacked her at lunch, that I basically threatened her. I explained to him what happened from my point of view and he said that she was probably just overreacting. But it was her word against mine. Part 3 is up. My boyfriend is moving in with his girl best friend and I do not trust her. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's sending me on Instagram. After Lacey told my boyfriend that I had attacked her and threatened her, he told me to keep my distance. So I did. But that meant that he would hang out with her without me. I found this completely unacceptable. That's when I told my boyfriend that she was manipulative, that she had clearly planned everything out so that he and her could be alone. Then I told him that his ex-girlfriend left him because of her. He told me that I didn't know the full story and that I should mind my own business. That's when I noticed that he wouldn't come over to my apartment every day. And guess why? His best friend Lacey told him that she had a stalker and that she needed my boyfriend to stay over her house so that she could feel protected and safe. I just can't. I told him that she was clearly manipulating him and probably lying about the stalker situation so that he could spend more time with her. And just like that, 2 days later, he told me that they were moving in together and that she miraculously found an apartment big enough for the two of them. In 2 days? I don't think so. I think she had been planning this the whole time. And my boyfriend is just stupid enough to fall for it. I told him if he moved in with her that he should just forget about me. He begged me not to leave him, so I guess I'm still his girlfriend. He's still debating whether or not to move in with her. He says he doesn't want to lose me, but he wants to be able to be there for her. I think I should break up with him, but maybe there's another solution. What do you guys think I should do?
Am I the asshole for telling my husband his name suggestion for our unborn baby is idiotic at best? Hello all. This has caused quite a stir on both sides of the family, and my niece suggested that I post here so as to garner unbiased opinions. Unfortunately, as it is relevant to the story, I will have to keep much personal information uncensored in this story. As such, this is a throwaway account. My 35 female, husband 37 male and I are pregnant with our first child. We are overjoyed as we have struggled with perceived infertility and miscarriages for the last decade. We want the gender to be a surprise, but may have to find out to settle this. I am currently at the tail end of my second trimester. Now, my husband absolutely idolized his grandpa, who unfortunately passed away last week. My husband is devastated, especially about the notion that his children will never meet their great-grandpa, who their father adored so much. As such, my husband has suggested that we name the baby after grandpa. Theodore if it's a boy, Theodora if it's a girl. Either way, we will either call them Teddy or Theo/Thea, respectively. It's not that I mind the name, the issue is that our last name is Bund, pronounced Bundy. I asked my husband, do you really see no issue with naming our kid Teddy Bundy? You don't think that would raise any questions? He says no, he's just honoring his grandpa. I told him he needs to think about how we will be perceived, how our child will be treated, and the implications that that name inherently carries. I literally had to spell out why that would be a horrible idea, and he still thinks I just hate his grandpa. I told him no. Grandpa was named in 1930 when the name Teddy Bundy wouldn't have been a problem. However, since certain events in the 70s and 80s, there is no feasible way we can give him this name to our kid and not cause issues. He kept pushing and pushing until I blew up and told him to stop with the idiotic suggestion, and that is what it is. Idiotic at best, sociopathic at worst. He got extremely upset and told his family and my parents, who are divided. His family is obviously on his side and wants to honor Grandpa via naming the baby after him. My parents are torn, but on my side, as they understand the social pariah that we would make our child by giving him such a similar name to the person who did such abhorrent and downright evil things to so many women. I mean, personally, I don't think anyone is just going to assume that we are honoring a past loved one. They're just going to think of Ted Bundy. Am I the asshole? What kind of crazy fantasyland denial is this guy living in? Next he's gonna be like, yeah, well, we're gonna have another boy, and he's gonna be Adolf Hitler. Like, what's the problem with that name, honey? And it's fine, if she's born a woman, it's gonna be Margaret Thatcher. Easy name choice. I think this one's an easy not the asshole. I don't know why the family is on the husband's side. This seems pretty obvious to me, but some people just built different, I guess. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I might be the asshole because I rudely told my husband that I didn't like his name suggestions due to social implications around the name, even though our baby would be named after someone we loved very much. Now in the comments, not the asshole, please do not name your kid, in effect, Ted Bundy. Literally ignore everybody encouraging you to name your kid Ted Bundy. Lol, anyone encouraging you to name your kid Ted Bundy may in fact be an in-the-closet murderer. The answer is easy. You and your husband change your last name to your maiden name. No more issue with Teddy, unless your maiden name is Ruxpin. Hey, it's not like any kid is gonna know what the hell Teddy Ruxpin is, unlike Ted Bundy, who will stay infamous for decades at least. Not the asshole. I have a friend who has a very similar name to a well-known serial killer. He has to wind up basically apologizing for his name wherever he goes, even though he has absolutely no relationship to the guy. It's pretty sad. There are many ways you can honor your husband's grandfather without giving the baby such an unfortunate name. This is my friend, John Wayne Gacy. We're also friends with Charles Mason. Not the asshole. If your last name is Dahmer, you probably stay away from Jeffrey. I share the name of a famous athlete in the state that he played college ball. I was 8 when he became famous, so I wasn't named after him. Just coincidence. It comes with its own issues, nothing too bad. Outside of people thinking that I'm him, finding my address by typing my name into Google, and then they stop by my house, it's happened twice. I couldn't imagine having to share a name with a serial killer. Not the asshole. Even if the name wasn't bad in this way, it takes 2 yeses for a baby's name. 2. Even if you simply didn't like the name, your no means no. How many people did it take to make the baby? 2. How many people will it take to raise the baby? 2. How many people get to decide on the name? 2. 1 no equals no. Not the asshole. Why does he love his grandpa more than his own child? I have bad news for your husband. Grandpa is dead and won't know the difference. The kid will, don't let him do it. Now back up to the post, we have some edits and updates. Edit. Just to say that you guys are all proving my point that Ted Bundy is clearly still an infamous name. There has not been one comment that didn't immediately make the correlation upon hearing my last name. That is exactly what I don't want to have happen to my child. Kids are dicks, and they're gonna find a way to be mean. Let's not just hand them the material. Edit 2, Bundy's full name was Theodore Bundy. That's where this problem is ultimately stemming from. When a teacher reads the name from the roll, be it Theodore or Theodora, they aren't going to assume a nickname, it's just gonna be the full thing. Update and final edit. So I tried to make an update post, but I decided to just throw my update in here. Essentially, my husband stayed with his brother and sister-in-law for a night, and they talked it out. His brother was also very close with their grandpa, so I think hearing the same logic from someone grieving just as much knocked some sense into him. They explained why he couldn't just name his kid Teddy Bundy, and especially because we live in the western US, in one of the states where he operated and was also caught, imprisoned, and escaped. I don't even think it's legal to use that name. We spoke briefly on the phone before he came home, where I apologized for how rude I was when he kept suggesting the name. I explained that I was just stressed that he was seemingly overlooking just how bad it would be to have a kid with the same name as a very notorious serial killer, and I didn't feel listened to. He apologized as well, telling me that his grief was clouding his judgment, and that he also understands why we can't give our child Grandpa's name. While we did want to keep the gender a surprise, we felt like we had to look at the ultrasound to help hash this out. We are having a baby boy, and decided to give him his grandpa's middle name, Silas. Our son will have the name Silas Bundy. We also decided to go through with marriage counseling as well as grief counseling for my husband. He asked me to attend, and I'm sure I could learn how to be more compassionate about his loss. I was never too close with my grandparents, so I'm trying to be here for him, but can't empathize as well as I could. All in all, this worked out. Thank you so much for everyone who gave their opinions. You really helped us out here. This will be my final update. I'm going to be deleting this account as I've already doxed myself enough, and I've been sent links to articles and videos that people have started using this story in. Once again, thank you all so much. This was such a wild thing that I honestly never thought would happen. But yeah, I'm so glad this has been worked through. Thank you everyone. And now for some comments. My sister thought Will was a good name for my firstborn. I said, you know, they'll call him Willie. She thought that was fine until I reminded her my last name is Nelson. Up until my mum was in labor, she was set on naming me Indiana Jones. Luckily, someone convinced her otherwise. I would be less worried about the kid themselves, at least for the first 10 or more years of their life, and more worried about how the parents would be perceived. We just had, and still are, having a true crime moment in American popular culture. Other parents would straight up assume you named the kid after the serial killer based on like 5 TV shows about him that have streamed in the past few years. They're gonna think that you saw Zac Efron as a sexy serial killer and thought, I like the sound of that. They're gonna think that you are, at best, a true crime fan with a complete disconnect from the human cost. Which will, of course, have social consequences for your kid, as every parent sees his name, says yikes, and vows to have as little interaction with his parents as they can. This kid is going to forever be explaining how to pronounce that last name anyway, and at some point the teenage boy will say, Bundy, like the serial killer, ha ha ha. But I'm glad the parents worked out a compromise, and are also taking steps to improve some parts of their relationship overall. Parenting requires many compromises. It's good to learn how to do that well early. Our next post is titled, How do I break up with my boyfriend for being dirty without offending him? I, 24 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 24 male, for 6 years now. We both live at home to save money. He lives in an apartment with his parents and dogs. Now, let me start by saying I love him and his family is so sweet to me, and I never would want to disrespect them or hurt their feelings, but I can't take being there anymore. When we first started dating, it was never really dirty, but in the past 3 years, it has gotten progressively worse, and they now have a very bad roach infestation. They also have flies or other bugs sometimes, but the roaches are the big problem. I've been asking my boyfriend to do something about it before I come over, and he'll tell me he cleaned, but you'd never be able to tell. The floors are sticky because of pet pee, he leaves soda cans and bottles around his room, and crumbs on the bed. The bathroom is infested with roaches, so I try not to use it. The pets also use the bathroom as their own, so it is messy. I asked him to get the sticky fly tape that you can hang that is super cheap to catch flies. He still hasn't even done that. At one point, when I went over, I would be itchy and had little red bumps on me the next day. I realized it was bug bites. Since then, I have limited the times I've come over to once every few months. He tells me he doesn't clean because he's tired. He does have a physically exhausting job, but he also gets paid well, so he could have paid someone to fix the bug problem, but he won't. He says he won't pay for an exterminator or bug killing things because it's his parents' place and not his responsibility, and he's going to move out eventually, so he'd rather save his money for his own place. But he has no timeline on when he would move out. The last straw was this weekend. I visited for the first time in months. He told me he cleaned it before I came. It wasn't clean. So I just sat at the edge of the bed while we watched a movie. Then I saw a huge roach on the wall above the bed. I asked him to kill it, and he did, but he left the roach guts on the wall, and he didn't even clean it up and throw it out. This was after I already was swatting flies. At that point, I was ready to go. I suggested we do something outside, and I could tell that he was annoyed. He said, "So you want to leave because of bugs?" I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I tried to just say I want to go out and have fun, but he asked again, so I told him, yeah, bugs, and I want to go out and have fun. So then he takes his sweet time getting ready. I tried to be patient, but I had my coat on, and I was just standing there waiting while he was watching the movie, slowly pulling on clothes. I said, "Come on, let's go." And he snapped and asked, "Are you in a rush? You're in a rush to leave?" I just said, "No, but I'm just standing here in my coat. Come on." He continued to take forever to put on a sweatshirt and sneakers. He had an attitude after that. The next morning at my house, I woke up and swatted my arm because I felt something crawling on me. It was smashed by the time I looked, but it looked like what I see at his house. I nearly had a breakdown because I hate bugs, plus I live with my family and I can't bring that stuff here. I spent the whole day cleaning my room, my clothes, everything. I didn't go on my phone the entire day. I didn't reply to his texts until I was ready to go to bed. He asked me if I was okay, and I said yeah because I didn't want to argue over the phone when we both needed sleep for work in the AM. I also needed time to process everything. I have been patient and I've given suggestions on ways to clean his room and kill the bugs for like 3 years now. I love him, but honestly, I just feel like he is so dirty, I don't know what to do. We already don't see each other often and book a hotel once a month to get alone time. I don't want to be intimate anymore if he is this content on being this dirty. How do I break up with my long-term boyfriend for being dirty? What do I say without being harsh? And now in the comments, being gentle with him won't help him. Rip the band-aid and just be honest. Whether he goes on to realize his problem or forever blame you, you did the right thing for him to the very end if you just stay honest. And OP says, I guess I have a problem being to the point when I know the words can hurt someone, but I will just be honest with him. This is a man who 100% plans on moving in with his significant other and is still acting like this. Because if he won't clean in these conditions, he won't clean when it's a new place. It's gross, he's gross, it is time to go. He doesn't want to grow up and you already are past him. As someone who once lived with a man, moved in with a friend and her boyfriend, it is sickening to have to live with someone who can't clean after themselves. OP, he definitely won't clean, and if y'all move in together, it'll turn into you parenting him and telling him to clean all the time. When I lived with my past roommates, the guy who was messy always left plates and utensils in his room, hated doing dishes, and always half-assed cleaned them. His shoes were always just strewn about the hallway, etc., etc. I'm thankful I didn't have to share a room with him. We also had roaches, due to living next door to the river, and his uncleanliness definitely didn't help at all. Not fun. Oh honey, you deserve a normal, clean, hygienic life where you can relax without insects crawling all over you. If you were to live with this man, your life would be reduced to servitude. I know because I spent 6 years of my life sweeping, scrubbing, wiping up slime, picking up trash, washing skid-marked laundry, and fighting clutter created day after day after day by my former partner. A man who grew up in filth like that doesn't even know what a normal home is like. His behavior when you asked him to clean shows that he will never change. My partner was fun at first.
This time I know where I have to pull myself fitting down this road. I'm a diamond made necklace cause it's me that I chose. And I'm nobody else's but mine. You're mine, no. This time I know where I have to pull myself fitting down this road. I'm a diamond made necklace cause it's me that I chose. And I'm nobody else's but mine. You're mine, oh mine, oh mine, oh.
And now on to the update. So, I broke up with him before the post got as many replies as it did. I called him and let him know how I felt about the situation, and that it's best if we're just single and focus on ourselves right now. He said he understood, and it was a quick call. He texted me right after, saying he wished I told him how I felt while I was there, instead of waiting. I told him that I did tell him I was ready to go because of the bugs, and he caught an attitude. He apologized for responding the way he did, and said he was just embarrassed, especially since we already hadn't seen each other in over a month, he wanted to spend more time with me, etc. I let him know that I do feel where he's coming from, but if after 3 years he can't even bother to get a fly strip, I can't just take his word that he'll do better anymore. I blocked him, and this is the longest we've gone without speaking. 1 week today. I don't have bed bugs, plus I haven't seen another bug since that morning. I still deep cleaned my room to be sure. If anyone is curious, it was small plus black plus maybe grey. It kinda looked like the middle one in this picture. I only have him on Facebook for now, but we haven't spoken to each other. I told my closest friends that we broke up. I didn't tell them how bad his apartment is, just that I've asked him to do something for a few years now, and he hasn't followed through. I've been throwing away small sentimental items he has given me, like 1 to 2 a day, so far, and it's helping. My friend's birthday was over the weekend, so we went out for dinner and drinks, and it was great to go out with the girls. The timing was impeccable, I had a great time. Right now, I'm learning how to be single, especially single as an adult in her 20s. I'm the girl that's always been in a relationship in high school and college, so it's a huge adjustment. I know how to be alone, doing things on my own, being content when I'm by myself, and going out by myself, etc., but being single is completely different. Thinking of dating again seems pretty scary right now because the last standards I had going into a relationship were for teenage me. People in their 20s are often open to visiting someone's house and getting intimate soon, etc. I'm not interested in taking that route, plus feel that it comes with a big safety risk. I don't see myself dating for a while, but I'd appreciate any tips on being single, safe, and eventually dating again. And now in the comments, that sounds like a carpet beetle. It's a pest to be sure, but nothing close to as bad as bedbugs. They are not a threat to you directly because they do not bite, but the larvae can cause rashes and irritation. They are, however, a threat to your natural fibers because the larvae feed off of wool, silk, cotton, and leather. I was in non-stop relationships from 14 to 25. One of my friend's mums actually told me, "Yikes, sounds like you need to be single for a good 1 to 2 years to decompress after all that." And she was 100% right. It was a process, learning how to be comfortable, fill the silence, rely on myself, etc. The best thing that worked for me was creating and sticking to a schedule. Exercise daily for 1 hour, Sunday is laundry and house cleaning day, Monday is grocery shopping day. Tuesday I cooked dinner for myself and would invite a few friends to come over. Wednesday and Thursday nights were to myself to watch a movie and catch up on shows. And Friday and Saturday were dedicated to having plans with friends, usually organized a week in advance or more. And worst case, have folks over. Stay busy. Don't date. Don't even show interest. It's too tempting to get back into a relationship so you don't feel lonely, but it won't help you long-term being confident with yourself. Right now, work on being your best self. So in a year, you are 100% and ready to attract a partner who is also 100% their best self. Don't get into a relationship and expect to become your best self later. Self-improvement happens on your time, not someone else's. And OP says, sounds like your friend's mom would tell me the same thing. This is really helpful. Thanks. One thing I did was get pretty into the law of attraction. I dove into work, got ahead in my career, and it made me have much higher standards. I dated a guy a long time ago that was messy. His bathroom didn't look like it had ever been cleaned. No bugs, as we're in Michigan, and that's a less common problem in the north to have roaches. He came over to my house. I'm on the very tidy side of the scale, and he had an eye booger or something that he wiped on my couch. Done. I broke up with him over the phone a few days later and let him know that we weren't on the same page with cleanliness and organization, and the relationship wasn't a good match. We were just dating, not exclusive or anything. A little attempt to negotiate on his end, but I'm looking for someone who's the right match for me, and I don't expect someone to make big changes in themselves for me. Everyone should be free to go find the person who is already perfect for their particular life situation and what's important to them. Jesus. Feels like I need a shower after reading about his apartment. There wasn't nearly enough fear of bedbugs in either of these posts. Bedbugs are awful. By the time they're big enough for you to easily see them, they are dropping eggs everywhere they walk. I'm glad they did the right thing because that mess was him as much as it was his parents, and him moving out wasn't going to fix anything. Judging from his reaction to her wanting to leave, I was afraid that he would take the breakup badly and lash out at her somehow. I'm glad that he accepted the situation and didn't try to bully her out of her decision. Our next post is titled, Hey Mom, my wife and I have lived together for a long time and I'm very comfortable with food prep routines with her. However, we now have an adult man as a roommate and I can't keep any food or drinks in the house long enough. Just for context, my wife and I are lesbians and have never lived with men before. That's why this whole thing is annoying to adjust to. Neither of us eat very much, thanks to a combo of meds and eating disorder history, so food and drinks last a while before I have to make them again. For example, I made 3 gallons of unsweetened iced tea maybe 2 to 3 days ago. It's gone. I made 50 uncrustable sandwiches and it lasted 2 days. I got a 12-pack of sparkling water and didn't even get any. We don't really cook here because between the 3 of us, we have sensory issues that make most bulk meals impossible to eat, and we all work multiple jobs. I've tried separating my drinks and personal food, and that works sometimes, but he's allowed to eat and drink. We split the groceries cost. I just literally can't make enough to last, and I am so tired of constantly being out of things I want. Any ideas? How to make more bulk things? Storage ideas for how to make more of anything at once. We do have a deep freezer we can use, but if 50 Uncrustables, for example, are out in 3 days between the 3 of us eating them, with him eating way more, how can I possibly prep enough to have a stock? I am overwhelmed, we are going through food way more than we used to, and I am too tired to keep doing this. My idea on this would be to have that talk with him, as hard as that is sometimes. You really need to set up some firm boundaries with this man because he is stepping all over it, and even though he may have sensory issues as well, that doesn't give him a free pass to eat all of your food. You are not his maids, you are not his mother, he is his own person who can make his own food. Sharing is great, but it seems that he is not doing anything to provide back for you guys. He is not making meals for you guys, you are doing all the work and he's eating all of your food. I'd feel majorly disrespected by that, and I would cut it off way earlier than you guys have allowed this to go. Let's see what the comments have to say. It might be time to reevaluate your stance on food. Maybe you need to tell him you will each pay for your own now and make some rules about not eating and drinking the other's stuff. It's not an unusual or even unreasonable policy. Yeah, I've had a number of roommates over the years and never shared groceries or food with any of them. There is no reason OP can't tell the new roommate they will no longer be sharing food. It may be an awkward conversation at first, but continuing the current arrangement is not sustainable and will only lead to resentment. Yesh. And one thing is sharing grocery costs, another is absolutely monopolizing every single food item and being disrespectful eating most of everything when you are literally 1/3 of the population in the home, not the majority. He is eating most of the things they are prepping too. That is too far. That is taking advantage of people's efforts and kindness. And OP says, "Thank you for saying that. I truly felt so selfish when I posted this, and now I just feel embarrassed that I haven't been more forceful about my boundaries. He just chips and chips and chips at any boundary that I put up, and it's too exhausting to fight. There is no reason he can't buy and prepare food, and he needs to. It's not just the money, it's the time and effort that go into preparing food. I have teen sons, and we have similar issues with food. We also have to be careful about restricting food with the younger because he was food insecure before his adoption and has a tendency toward hoarding or eating in secret, which isn't necessary in our home. What we do in our house, for special foods like snacks, special drinks, and things other people prepped, if you didn't put it on the grocery list, you need to ask whomever did. If you didn't prep the food, then you need to ask, etc. Otherwise, you find something you asked for, or you prepped, or you make your own foods and drinks. There is no reason, if he wants sandwiches, that he can't make sure the ingredients are bought or make his own. There is no reason he should drink all of a drink that he didn't request, or that he can't take a turn making a house drink, like tea, when he starts the last gallon. This is about respect. If he can't respect the time you spend making food by helping out or keeping his hands off, then you as a household need to renegotiate the food aspect of your arrangement. You didn't enter this arrangement to be his mummies. And OP says, I had to teach him step by step how to make tea. Tea. We have an iced tea maker. You literally fill the tea tank, fill the pitcher half with ice and half with water, put tea bags in the filter and press a button. He keeps saying he doesn't know how to do things, but also isn't willing to do things, and I am just so frustrated. I have no idea how straight women do this. When straight women mention lesbian fantasies, it's not always the sex they're thinking of. I have heard that so many times. Oh wow, you're a lesbian? Lucky you. You never have to put up with your husbands or boyfriends... ... Like, huh? If you're dating men who let you down or disappoint you, leave? There are wonderful and supportive and helpful men out there, but the fact that those men often have to unlearn what they're taught by their fathers or by growing up as a man in general is just sad to me. Sounds just like having teenagers. I concur with all those who suggest no more food splitting. For the record, my husband always asks if I want the last thing, whether it be a yogurt, French fry, or a bite of steak. That's why I married him. And OP says, yeah, I definitely wouldn't marry this one. He's the father of my godson, and my godson's mother is in rehab. I have all idea how she put up with it. I hope they stay separated, but not my circus, not my monkeys, once he gets the hell out. And OP also goes on to say, y'all are really giving me a reality check I needed. Here, I felt like a monster for thinking that I couldn't keep up, and since he was paying, it was fine. I also don't think he's paying nearly enough, because it's him and his 1-year-old. The kid is our godson. He's been boundary stomping for a while, but damn, I thought I was being so selfish here. It sounds like he's paying for half the groceries, but eating like 80% of them. You know what else he's not paying for? Your time and expertise. You were not being selfish, you gave him a place to live, not a full-service hotel. Heck, do you know how expensive food is at a hotel? And OP says, yeah, he makes a lot of money, so in his brain, it's easy. He gives me money to nanny for 10 hours a day, every day, while the kid lives here, and for his portion of bills, so expecting him to do anything is shocking for him. He thinks he can throw money at things, but doesn't value our labor at all. Well then, he can start ordering his own groceries via delivery and getting takeout. Money does solve a lot of problems, but you do not need to be the one to solve them. There is no reason for him to help himself to food he didn't prepare, and he's a father? Even more imperative he learn to do all of this on his own. And OP says, I have stories all day if I went into how messy this has been. There is no telling where this kid would have been without my wife and I. He's a single dad. Baby mama is in rehab, which is why we've had him his entire life, pretty much. It is so clear to me that he just never bothered learning because his plan was to make money and make the kid's mom do everything. If he doesn't know how to do something, he just won't do it. It doesn't even occur to him to try and figure it out before asking us to do it. Well, you are women after all, and that's what we're here for, yes? 2 wives for the price of 1. Oh my god. Back up to the post, we have an edit that says, I really thought when I wrote this that I was being so selfish and inconsiderate and just need to figure out a better way to do this. Thank you all for the reality check. I needed it. I am reading every comment and sharing these with my wife. We've been dealing with this for a year coming up in May, and it's been nothing but boundary stomping the entire time. I have tried to have so many conversations with him about stuff, but he's gaslighting me to hell. He's got a move-out date, depending on when he can get approved for a place, and I really need to take a long look at my boundaries. And now, onto the update. Hi moms! Oh, what a wake-up call in this original post. I truly thought I was the one at fault, and I didn't even consider what a mindfuck situation I'd been manipulated into. Immediately after I got so much advice on that post, I did the following. We stopped doing his laundry, prepping his food, and cleaning his dishes. Eventually, he ran out of dishes and laundry, and I think that was his oh crap moment. We went on a cleaning strike and didn't clean anything that he complained about, quickly making the house pretty gross and not to his standards. We stopped buying him groceries. He is now having to cook for himself and it's not going well. And the update is coming because, miraculously, he got an apartment without our help. He will no longer be homeless without me finding and calling and sourcing living spaces. He's got a move-out date. He's leaving. And he miraculously found a daycare and pricing without my help, and it's cheaper than us. So we get to have our own lives back. All of y'all were right, and the minute we stopped being his housewife/mother/maids, he had to reckon with all we do and immediately had a rude awakening. I cannot thank y'all enough. I'll update again when we have our home back, but thank you. I love all of you. To any of my little siblings reading this, the collective group of mums here are amazing. Don't be afraid to reach out. You'll get gentle awakenings and advice if you need it. Your big sister is here for you. Lesson learned, no one will ever violate my boundaries like this again. Thanks, mums. And now in the comments, I have a teenage boy. Active, athletic, how did you outgrow the clothes we just bought, teenage boy. And he doesn't eat half of what this grown man does. He also knows how to cook, clean, and do laundry for himself. My point? That man is just an ass. I have seen far too many older women and my peers raise their boys like they were incompetent princes and then wonder when they grow into teens and adults who won't lift a finger around the house or keep a relationship because these men go on to try and make their significant others into their maid. Yet they wonder what's wrong with them. You can't raise them to be a catered-to man-child and then be shocked when that's what they grow up to be. My boys are 15 and 12 and are always shocked when their friends don't know how to clean up after themselves or make food. Yeah, I'm a guy who has wondered how so many dudes I've known just cannot clean up. I hated living with men. I'm not a neat freak and my parents sucked, but they at least made sure that I knew how to take out the trash and clean my ass properly. but I'd just say about every man I ever lived with or even hung out with didn't know or care to do basic cleaning, and it utterly perplexes me that this is unusually common in my area. Okay, assuming between OP and wife eat like 8 Uncrustables each across 2 days, that means this dude was still eating 34 in 2 days. Is that possible? Am I not comprehending something? Did I math wrong? Are they rooming with the party sub guy? I made a loaf worth of PBJ sandwiches to freeze when the supply chain took out Uncrustables. After the first 2 months of lockdown, I was so over making sandwiches every damn day, and I would be beyond pissed if it vanished that fast. I love cooking, but bulk PBJ making is backache city.